The police maintained that Phoebe Handsjuk entered the garbage chute of an apartment building in Melbourne, Australia, while sleepwalking, resulting in a tragic accident. However, her family strongly suspects that her death was, in fact, a homicide. Phoebe Handsjuk, a vibrant 24-year-old with an enchanting smile, possessed talents as an enthusiastic climber and martial artist. On December 2, 2010, her life took a devastating turn, marking one of the most enigmatic episodes in Australian criminal history. According to the official case records, Phoebe had ingested sleeping pills and, while sleepwalking, ascended to the 12th floor garbage chute of her boyfriend's apartment building, leading to a fatal fall. Melbourne police discovered her lifeless body in a dumpster, the result of a feet-first plunge. Initially classified as a suicide with the case closed, the coroner later labeled Phoebe Handsjuk's death as a freak accident. Nevertheless, Phoebe's close friends and family refused to accept such an extraordinary explanation for her demise. Independent experts consulted on the case deemed the incident highly implausible, given the improbability of Handsjuk reaching that location on her own. The grieving mother of the young woman remains steadfast in her belief that someone intentionally forced her down into that tragic situation. Amateur investigators who eagerly dig into the case often cast suspicion on Phoebe Handsjuk's boyfriend, a 40-year-old man named Anthony Hampel. He is frequently regarded as a prominent figure in the city, being the son of the Chief Justice and the head of a renowned event agency. Anthony leads a luxurious lifestyle, frequently patronizing bars, restaurants, and nightclubs. Interestingly, despite Anthony's reputation and some acquaintances perceiving him as having a somewhat volatile and emotional temperament, he has never faced official accusations or been considered a suspect in Phoebe's tragic death. Even more perplexing, certain unsettling details failed to trigger a more thorough police investigation. The mysterious deletion of all of Phoebe's recent emails and the unexplained disappearance of one of her cell phones did not prompt authorities to scrutinize the case more closely. Do these puzzling inconsistencies warrant legitimate concerns? Born on May 9, 1986, in Melbourne, Australia's second-largest city, Phoebe Handsjuk had an innate connection with nature from a young age. She was the eldest among 3 siblings, the only sister to her brothers, Tom and Nicholas. Her father, Len, worked as a psychiatrist, while her mother primarily focused on caring for their children. To outsiders, they appeared as an exemplary family residing in the affluent suburb of Richmond. However, at the age of 15, Phoebe fell into unfavorable company and succumbed to the allure of drugs and alcohol. Her parents made efforts to guide her back on the right path, but Phoebe chose to escape from home, living with an ex-convict and his child for an 8-week period. Ultimately, her family's persistence led her to return home, where Phoebe received prescriptions for antidepressants and underwent addiction treatment, successfully conquering her detrimental habits. However, a few months later, she entered into a romantic relationship with her teacher, a man twice her age. What served as a positive diversion from her struggles with addiction was Phoebe's passion for extreme sports and martial arts. She excelled as an almost professional rock climber, showcasing remarkable athleticism. Despite her achievements, she did not pursue formal education. In 2009, at the age of 23, Phoebe worked as a hairdresser at Lindley Godfrey's studio in South Yarra, where she crossed paths with Anthony Hampel, a 39-year-old gentleman who frequented the salon as one of her regular clients. Anthony, an attractive and affable event organizer, hailed from a prominent family. His father, George Hampel, served as a Supreme Court justice, and his stepmother, Felicity Hampel, held the position of circuit court judge. Phoebe was immediately captivated by his charisma. Phoebe's boss, Lindley Godfrey, initially assumed that Phoebe, who wasn't a regular client, would spend some time with him. To his surprise, Phoebe chose to spend her time with Hampel instead. Their relationship deepened, and after 5 months, in October 2009, Phoebe made the decision to move into Hampel's apartment on Street Kilda Road. Over the following 14 months, Phoebe faced a relapse into drinking, prompting her to seek assistance from psychiatrist Joanna Young. During one of her sessions, Phoebe confided in Young about Hampel's abusive behavior and alluded to instances of physical aggression. Their relationship became increasingly strained, and in the 6 weeks leading up to her tragic demise, Phoebe initiated breakups with Anthony on 4 separate occasions. Lindley Godfrey, who shared a close bond with her employer, observed that Hampel managed to convince Phoebe to reconcile each time. Unfortunately, her 4th return marked her final one: mysterious death in a garbage chute. On December 2, 2010, the fateful day of Phoebe's passing, Hampel, Handsjuk, and her father, Len, had plans to meet for dinner. Meanwhile, Phoebe intended to tackle some household chores at her boyfriend's apartment. Upon completing her cleaning tasks and taking the dog for a walk, surveillance footage captured her return home at 11:44 a.m. She calmly ascended to her boyfriend's 12th floor unit. Unfortunately, there were no security cameras on that specific floor, leaving everything that happened thereafter shrouded in mystery. Hampel reported his return home a little after 6:00 p.m. Upon entering through an unlocked door, he was immediately met with a disconcerting scene. Broken glass and blood were scattered around, notably on the keyboard and computer monitor. Phoebe, however, was conspicuously absent, though her purse, wallet, and keys remained neatly arranged on the kitchen table. Moreover, 2 empty flutes were found, and subsequent analysis revealed only Phoebe's fingerprints on them. Concerned by the situation, Anthony promptly contacted the police, who eventually located her several hours later in a ground floor trash container. Phoebe had already passed away for several hours, and her system contained a significant alcohol level of 1.6 p.m., indicating substantial intoxication. Traces of 1 or 2 tablets of potent sedative sleeping pills, taken as prescribed by her doctor, were also detected in her system. According to the police investigation, it was determined that Handsjuk had descended into the garbage chute sometime between 12:03 and 18:00 on that ill-fated day. Despite the relatively narrow dimensions of the chute, measuring 37 by 22 centimeters, it was theoretically possible for a person of her size to enter it. The coroner's report indicated that she fell into the chute with her feet leading the way, her arms pinned to her body. Remarkably, it was revealed that Phoebe initially survived the fall, thanks to the accumulated debris cushioning the impact. She even made attempts to extricate herself from the container. However, her injuries, including fractures, ultimately prevented her from escaping, leading to her demise due to blood loss. Among the puzzling aspects of the case were the unusual bruises on Phoebe's arms, which appeared inconsistent with the idea of a fall or descent down the garbage chute. Nevertheless, the police attributed these curious injuries to her state of being and the presumed act of sleepwalking. Late investigations. Phoebe Handsjuk's grandfather, Lorne Campbell, a retired police detective, received the devastating news at 10:00 p.m. Upon arriving at the scene, he personally witnessed the unfolding situation. Lorne Campbell remarked, "Right from the outset, I suspected foul play. But after 5 days of scrutinizing CCTV footage, examining all of Phoebe's electronic devices and computers, and collecting fingerprints from both the apartment and the garbage hatch, homicide detectives ultimately concluded that foul play was not involved." Their working hypothesis was that Handsjuk may have accidentally or intentionally broken some glassware, resulting in a hand injury. Subsequently, she attempted to search the internet for information on how to stop bleeding, inadvertently splattering her computer with blood in the process. Following this, she ventured out to dispose of some refuse, but dropped something of significance into a manhole. Possibly under the influence of alcohol, and without fully comprehending the risks, Phoebe tried to retrieve the item from the garbage chute and tragically ended up falling inside. Another theory suggested that, in a state of somnambulism induced by alcohol and sleeping pills, she unknowingly climbed into the garbage chute. As incredible as these scenarios may sound, the official determination was that the incident was an accident, leading to the closure of the case. Campbell expressed his disappointment with the investigation, pointing out various overlooked details. He noted that besides the flutes, from which he believed fingerprints were intentionally wiped, shoe tracks leading away from the apartment were disregarded. Additionally, he attempted to recreate the events by enlisting a volunteer who bore a resemblance to Phoebe. It was evident that even for a sober and prepared individual, climbing into the garbage chute was an exceedingly challenging endeavor. While technically feasible, it resembled more of a complex circus act. One of the primary challenges, as Campbell pointed out, aside from the narrow hatch size, was that the chute door pressed against your lower back, causing it to pinch, and there were no handholds. Descending without assistance was arduous, and whatever was in Phoebe's system at that moment would have only compounded the difficulty. In 2013, Phoebe Handsjuk's mother initiated an effort that led to a re-examination of her daughter's untimely death. This undertaking required raising $50,000 to cover legal expenses, as is the practice in the Australian legal system. The focus of the investigation was Phoebe's boyfriend. Hampel's lawyer argued that Phoebe had climbed into the chute during a bout of sleepwalking, a theory corroborated by coroner Peter White. On December 10, 2014, the trial concluded in favor of Anthony Hampel. However, an alternative theory unrelated to Phoebe's boyfriend existed. Campbell believed that his granddaughter's death might have been linked to Melbourne's drug trade, though no concrete evidence supported this claim. The prevailing sentiment among the majority of Australians is that Hampel, due to his connections, managed to avoid culpability, fueling suspicions that he may be the perpetrator. After Phoebe's tragic passing, Anthony entered into a relationship with 25-year-old model Bailey Schneider. Whether it's a tragic coincidence or a deeply unsettling pattern, in 2018, Bailey was found lifeless with a cord tightly wound around her neck. What makes this even more chilling is that her death occurred mere hours after their breakup. Bailey's lifeless body was discovered at her parents' residence in Moonee Ponds. While the police officially categorized Schneider's death as a suicide, her grieving parents firmly assert that it was a murder. In the meantime, Hampel sold his apartment and entered into a joyful marriage. However, the families of both Phoebe Handsjuk and Bailey Schneider remain committed to uncovering any evidence that may suggest he is not merely an innocuous event host, but rather a cold-hearted serial killer.